In 1929, a German scholar leans over a wide table in Istanbul. His gloved hands unroll something fragile and very old. The surface is soft, gazelle skin, cracked with 4 centuries. Faded ink shows painted seas and unfamiliar shores. A date sits in one corner, the year 1513. Along the lower edge runs a shore that should not exist. This is the Piri Reis Map, and it appears to know things its makers could not have known. Its author was Piri Reis, an admiral of the Ottoman Navy. Before that, he sailed as a pirate across the Mediterranean. He raided ships and coastlines from Spain to North Africa. When he came ashore, he turned his hand to drawing the world. In 1513, he assembled a single great chart in his study. He built it from a tall stack of older documents. Some of those sources have since vanished from the world. In the margins, Piri Reis wrote where each one came from. He listed charts from the age of Alexander the Great. He listed Arab charts and Portuguese charts of new lands, and he named one drawn by Christopher Columbus himself. That Columbus source has never been found anywhere on Earth, so the admiral may have copied a shore that died with its source. Only a fragment of his 1513 work survives today. The rest was cut apart and lost across the centuries. But that surviving piece is where the strangeness lives. It shows the eastern shore of South America in real detail. The rivers, the bays, the Great Bulge of Brazil are all there. In 1513, Europeans had barely glimpsed that land. Columbus had reached the Caribbean just 21 years before. Most of that coast was still empty on every European drawing. Yet Piri Reis inked it as though he had sailed it himself. The proportions are close enough to unsettle modern experts. Then, the drawn land curves south, and the mystery deepens, because at the bottom, the land simply keeps going. A long shore stretches clear across the lower margin. Some researchers believe that shore is Antarctica. Antarctica was not officially sighted until the year 1820. That is roughly 3 centuries after this drawing was made. How could a 1513 hand render a frozen continent nobody had found? The claim grows stranger under close reading. The drawn shore seems to follow the land beneath the ice. Today, Antarctica's true shore hides under a mile of ice. We only mapped that buried shore with modern radar surveys. The last time it lay bare was many thousands of years ago. So a 16th century admiral appears to record Ice Age geography. This is why the drawing has haunted researchers for a century. Now, careful scholars offer far more grounded answers. Old map makers routinely bent shores to fit the skin. The bottom land may be South America, simply twisted sideways. The 16th century had no reliable way to fix longitude, so coasts were stretched and squeezed to make the pieces meet. Skeptics call the Antarctica match a hopeful coincidence. Even the cautious admit the accuracy is rare for its age. Because the true marvel is not only the frozen South, it is how one man gathered so much of the planet at all. Piri Reis drew from Greek, Arab, Portuguese, and Spanish hands. He stitched them into one coherent picture of the seas. Each source held a coast someone risked their life to find. Together they formed knowledge no single voyage could hold. And some of it came from books already ancient in 1513. The map is a memory of libraries that no longer exist. Piri Reis names among his sources the charts of antiquity, charts that may have survived the burning of Alexandria. If so, this gazelle skin carries echoes of lost worlds. That alone would rank it among history's great documents. But return again to that impossible southern land. Look at how confidently the line is drawn. There is no hesitation, no guessing, no blank void. Whoever first charted it seemed to know exactly what lay there. And that certainty is what refuses to be explained away. The admiral himself never claimed any magic. He simply said he copied better sources than his own, which raises the real question buried in the skin. Who drew those better sources, and how did they see so far? The Piri Reis Map gives no answer. It only preserves the fingerprints of vanished knowledge. For 400 years, it lay forgotten in a palace. Then, in 1929, restorers reopened the Topkapi collection. Buried in the clutter, they found the gazelle skin sheet. Scholars unrolled it, and the arguments began at once. Every faded line has been fought over ever since. Some see only distortion and wishful matching. Others see foresight that history cannot yet account for. But all sides agree on one quiet, unsettling fact. A man in 1513 drew a coast the world would confirm centuries later. He drew it from sources he did not make and could not fully explain. And most of those sources are gone forever. What we hold is the last surviving copy of a copy, a shadow of knowledge that once reached further than we thought. Consider the man himself for a moment. Piri Reis was no mystic and no dreamer. He was a working sailor who trusted good information. He later wrote a famous book of sailing directions. That book guided Ottoman captains for generations. So his skill at drawing coasts was real and respected, which makes his strangest shore even harder to dismiss. A careless mapmaker invents. A careful one copies faithfully. And every note in the margin says he copied faithfully. His own words are the deepest part of the mystery. He tells us plainly the maps he used are older than he is. He does not boast. He credits the hands before him, and those older hands are exactly the ones we cannot find. Picture Alexandria before the flames took it. Its shelves held sailing knowledge from across the ancient world. Voyages, coastlines, measurements, all gathered under one roof. Then fire and neglect erased most of it. What little escaped scattered across the centuries. Some may have drifted, hand to hand, toward Istanbul, and finally into the workshop of one Ottoman admiral. If that thread is real, the map is a survivor of a lost age, a single sheet holding the last light of vanished libraries. That is the version of the story that keeps people awake. But now return once more to the ice. Antarctica is the hardest place on Earth to have known early. No trees, no harbors, no reason for old sailors to go. It is ringed by storms and crushing pack ice. For most of history, it was simply beyond reach. So any accurate shore there feels almost impossible. The cautious answer is that it is not Antarctica at all. The bold answer is that someone, somehow, once saw it. The map itself will never tell us which is true. And perhaps that is exactly why it endures. A puzzle that cannot be solved cannot be forgotten. So the shore at the bottom keeps its silence, and the world keeps coming back to look. Think of the world Piri Reis actually lived in. Ships returned each season with tales of impossible new lands. Every captain guarded his coasts like precious treasure. Knowledge of a shoreline could be worth a fortune. So the admiral hunted rare information wherever it hid. Bazaars, captured ships, dusty libraries, all fed his work. He was, in a sense, a collector of the vanishing world. And what he collected, he preserved onto a single hide. That is why the object feels almost like an archive. A whole lost world pressed flat and painted in one place, which is exactly what makes its silence so heavy. Today, the surviving fragment lives in Istanbul. It rests in the Topkapi Palace Museum, kept in careful darkness. It is shown to the public only on the rarest occasions. Most of the time, it stays sealed away from light, because gazelle skin fades and this skin remembers too much. Conservators watch its temperature and its every crack. They treat it like the irreplaceable relic it is, because there is nothing else quite like it on Earth. A man in 1513 drew a shore we could not confirm for centuries. He drew it from sources he could not fully explain. Every time the case is opened, the same question returns. How did they render a shore that was under ice? How did a former pirate inherit such deep knowledge? The gazelle skin keeps its answer folded inside, a record that seems to remember what its makers forgot. So the historian in 1929 was right to feel a chill. He was holding a shoreline that arrived too early, drawn by a man who was only copying older, wiser hands. The Piri Reis Map still waits in its dark Istanbul case. painted on gazelle skin, dated 1513, quietly impossible. A map that seems to know a coast no one alive should have seen.